POV Italian Cooking in association with the Simply Good Food TV network, where today we are going to make Shrimp Puttanesca. So I got home, kids were home from college, didn't know they were coming, so I had to quickly come up with something for dinner. So I looked in my cabinet, found a few items, looked in my freezer, found some shrimp, thought I could make Shrimp Puttanesca. In one of my very old episodes I made Puttanesca sauce. This is kind of the same thing, maybe tweaked it a little bit, but of course adding the shrimp. The dish turned out great, packed full of flavor, family loved it. So I've talked long enough, let's get started. So we're going to take a look real quick at the ingredients for our Shrimp Puttanesca. Got a lot of things lined up here, but this is a real simple sauce to make, so full of flavor. We've got about 2.5 tablespoons of olive oil, 3 anchovy fillets, a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes, a tablespoon of capers. Now I am going to kind of just chop these capers just a little bit, not a lot. We've got a half a cup of green olives. We're going to use probably 3-4 cloves of our garlic. These are small, so I'll probably err on the side of 4. We're going to use about 1/3 of this onion chopped. I've got 1/2 cup of a good white wine. I like to use a Pinot Grigio. I've got 1 28-ounce can of San Marzano tomatoes. Now I'm just going to crush these by hand. I'm going to use a whole can. I have 1 pound of pre-cooked shrimp, tails removed. These are medium-sized shrimp. If you've got small shrimp, you've got large shrimp, just use whatever you have in your freezer, thaw them out. And then 1 pound of penne pasta. A lot of stuff here. I'm going to go ahead and get things shifted around a little bit. When I come back, we'll talk about our capers, our onions, and our garlic real quick. So let me get things shifted and we'll get started. All right, let's talk about our capers. Well, what I've got here is about 1 tablespoon of capers, give or take. When you take them out of the jar, give them a quick rinse, get that nasty old brine off of them. Now, we're not going to chop these up all the way. All we really want to do is just give them one quick pass, because we want to chop up a few of them, because these are going to put a lot of flavor in our dish. So now our capers are ready. Now I'll go ahead and get these back in my jar here, and then we will get started on our next ingredient. Let's get our San Marzano tomatoes ready. I use these in a lot of my recipes, but I always make sure I have a jar or two on hand in the pantry. It's definitely one of my staples. At any rate, what we want to do, not a lot of prep on these. I don't want to puree these because I want some chunks of tomato in my dish. All you really want to do is hand crush these. Now, I'm going to warn you, when you hand crush these, a lot of times you're going to get, it's just going to squirt across the room. So you have to be careful. There is a method to the madness on hand crushing these. I'm trying to find one that's whole, because I kind of poured these out and gave them a quick little chop. Here we go, we got one. If I just crush this right now, it's going to squirt clear across the kitchen. Pierce it with your thumb first and then hand crush it, because that is going to make a hole for everything to run through. So just go through your bowl and give them a quick crush. You want some chunks left in there, so don't worry about getting everything broke up on this one. That's good enough. So I'm going to clean off my hand here, and we're going to move on to our onions and our garlic. Time to prep our onions and our garlic. These cloves of garlic are pretty small. I'm going to go ahead and use 4. I'm going to get my onion done first. What I want is probably about half of this onion. Let's go ahead and get the skin off. There is a trick to cutting your onions so that you don't tear up, especially these red onions. They can be a little harsh. The best way I found to do it is to ask your wife to cut your onions up and then stand on the other side of the kitchen. So that way you don't have to deal with it. At least that's what I found works best for me. So on our onion, we do want to get a decent chop to this. So what we're going to do, just give it a real quick chop. That's going to be just about enough of our onion. Get that out of the way. Give this a quick chop. They don't have to be too small. That will work just fine. I'm going to get these in a bowl, and then we'll get our garlic chopped up and we can start cooking. These are really small garlic cloves. Usually I I like a bigger garlic clove. They're just easier to handle and takes less of them. Now, these smaller garlic cloves, I will say that generally they have a little bit more punch in their flavor. So give them a quick crush, get the skins off of them. So crushing your garlic does two things. For one, it makes the outer skin easier to remove, and it also releases the oil. So we're going to give these, we'll say a decent chop. We're going to do this without cutting our fingers off, or at least try to. You can put your comments about my poor cutting skills in the comments below the video. So I'm going to give this a good chop, and once this is done, then we are ready to start cooking. Positioned over the stove, I've got my pasta water going here. I want to get it up to temperature while I'm making my main dish. So I'm going to get my olive oil in the pan, get this coated real quick. I've got my heat on high, but I will be turning it down. Some oil is starting to heat up here. Let's go ahead and get my onions in the pan. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sweat these onions out for 4 or 5 minutes until they just start to get translucent. Just been 4 or 5 minutes. Our onions are starting to brown just a little bit. These are perfect. Next thing I'm going to add is 3 anchovy fillets. Now don't worry about adding these anchovy fillets. People are going to say, oh my gosh, I hate anchovies. And you know, if I just picked one up and ate it, I probably wouldn't like it. Now these anchovies will just melt away to nothing in that hot olive oil. So, along with this, I'm going to go ahead and add my 1 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes, my 1/2 cup of sliced green olive, my 1 tablespoon of capers, slightly cut up. And I'm going to turn my heat down here. Turn it down. I had it on medium. I got it now like at a medium low just to stop the spray. And my garlic. This was about 4 cloves of garlic. Now I am going to let this cook for just a few minutes. I want to make sure those anchovy fillets just kind of dissolve away. I want that garlic and that red pepper flake and those olives to start to release their flavor. So keep this over medium low heat and just let them simmer for 2-3 minutes. It's been just a few minutes and this is smelling incredible. Everything has kind of released a little bit of its oil. The olives, the anchovies, the garlic, the onions, this smells amazing, and these are kind of, you know, your core flavor ingredient for a puttanesca. So now what I want to do is I'm going to turn my heat back up to medium. I'm going to add 1/2 cup of Pinot Grigio, kind of deglaze with that. I'm going to simmer this over medium heat just until the scent of alcohol dissipates. You know, once the alcohol is done and off, which only takes a minute or so, then we're going to move on to the next step. The smell of alcohol is already gone, and it's just been probably a minute. The last step, we have 1 28-ounce can of San Marzano tomatoes, hand crushed. Those go right into the pool. So now what we are going to do is we're going to bring this up to heat on over medium heat, and then when it starts, you know, gets good and hot and we get a lot of bubbles, then what I'm going to do is lower my heat to a simmer, and then we're going to let this simmer for 15 minutes. So I'm going to drop my pasta in about 5 minutes after this is simmering. That way, when my pasta is done, I can just finish it right in the sauce. Now 10 minutes into the simmer, I'm going to put my shrimp in. The shrimp I had was it was a frozen pre-cooked shrimp. Again, I pulled the tails off, but I'm going to simmer those in here for about 5 minutes. They are thawed. That way it'll give them some time to soak up some of this wonderful flavor. All right, our sauce is starting to bubble. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this to a simmer. This is going to go for 15 minutes. But in 10 minutes, I'm going to drop in my shrimp. In 5 minutes, I'm going to drop my pasta. So what we'll do is we'll come back when it's time to put our shrimp in. Now, one thing I did do was between shots, I tasted my puttanesca. It needed a tiny bit of salt. It doesn't take much salt because you have so much brininess from everything else. And I added a little bit of black pepper as well. So now it's time to add our shrimp. I have 1 pound of medium shrimp, tails removed. Just going to stir that in there, and this is going to cook for 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, our pasta will be done, and we will just finish our penne pasta right in this sauce. So my pasta is ready. My sauce is ready. We're about ready to eat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my pasta off, drag that over here, and we're just going to scoop it over there. I'm not going to worry too much about shaking out my water completely because pasta water is magic for your sauce. If you have a sauce that needs thickening, you throw in your pasta water. If you have a sauce that you need more, well, if you made a dish and you need a little bit more sauce, but you're already close to dinner, add more pasta water. It works for all occasions. So what I'm going to do is get my pasta stirred in. I've still got it here on simmer. I'm going to let this simmer for just a minute or two because what I want to happen is I want this wonderful pasta to soak up that tasty, tasty puttanesca sauce, or garbage sauce as many people call it. And then we're going to plate this up and eat. And I can't wait because it smells amazing. So I've plated up my shrimp puttanesca. Of course, with any pasta, it's not quite done until you put on your Parmesan. So let's snow down Parmesan. That's good enough. Let's give this a try. See how it turned out. I used a penne pasta because that's what I had. Wow.
It's good.
My wife's just off camera. You're gonna like this, honey. I made shrimp puttanesca because my daughter and her boyfriend gave up chicken and red meat for Lent and can only eat seafood. She doesn't like fish, so I had to make a plate that had shrimp. So I'm going to get them over here, get them fed, drink about another bottle of wine until I start feeling really good, and eat. So with that, thank you so much for watching POV Italian Cooking. Don't forget to connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+. Most importantly, click that subscribe button in YouTube and download the Simply Good Food TV app. Thanks for watching, and ciao.